morning, children. Today we are going to see the remaining topics of the chapter 3, the Delhi Sultans. Okay, children, let's recall what we have seen so far. Okay, actually, we saw about how Delhi became the capital of a kingdom under the Tamora Rajputs, right? It was only under the rule of the Tamoras and Chauhans that Delhi flourished as an important commercial center, isn't it? Yes. Then the city was inhabited by many Jaina merchants who also constructed a number of temples. Then I told you about Delhi Wall, right? What it means? It means a place where coins were minted is known as a Delhi Wall, isn't it? Yes, then we saw about Delhi Sultanate played the most vital role in the transformation of Delhi into a capital which controlled vast areas of the subcontinent, isn't it? Then we saw about the rulers of Delhi, isn't it? Yes. Actually, how many dynasties come under the Delhi Sultans? There are 6 dynasties ruled over Delhi, and they together called as the Delhi Sultans, isn't it? Yes. Who were they? Rajput dynasties in the Tamuras, then Chauhans. Prithviraj Chauhan was efficient ruler. Then we saw about early Turkish rulers in that Qutbuddin Aibak, Iltutmish, Sultana Razia, then Ghiasuddin Balban, right? Then we saw about Khalji dynasty. Then the founder of Khalji dynasty was Jalaluddin Khalji. Then after Jalaluddin Khalji, Alauddin Khalji became the ruler of Delhi. Then we saw about Tughlaq dynasty, isn't it? Yes, who was the founder of Tughlaq dynasty? Ghiasuddin Tughlaq. Then after that, Muhammad bin Tughlaq came to power. Then Firuz Shah Tughlaq was the last ruler of Tughlaq dynasty, isn't it? Then we saw about Sayyid dynasty. Then at last we saw about Lodi dynasty, isn't it? So there are 6 dynasties ruled over Delhi. Then they together called the Delhi Sultans. Got it? Then we saw about the sources that provide a lot of information about the Delhi Sultans. What were they? Inscriptions, coins, architecture, and history written in Persian by learned authors are some of the most important sources, isn't it? Actually, these sources provide a lot of information about the Delhi Sultans, isn't it? Then we saw about the Tawarikhs. Actually, Tawarikh refers as a history, right? Then who wrote Tawarikh? Learned scholars, right? Learned authors. Then we saw about Tariq and Tawarikh, right? Actually, these both refers history only. Tariq is a singular form and Tawarikh denotes plural. Actually, these histories, these Tariq and Tawarikh was written in Persian language, right? Actually, Persian language was the official language of Sultanate, right? Then the authors of Tawarikh were learned men. Basically, they were secretaries, administrators, poets, and courtiers, isn't it? Yes. Then we saw about the expansion of the Delhi Sultanate, isn't it? Yes, in fact, they followed 2 policies. One is internal frontier and another one is external frontiers. In this internal frontier means the hinterland of the garrison towns, right? So the expansion of initiated with it. Then actually for the expansion, forests were cleared in the Ganga, Yamuna, Doab, right? And hunter-gatherers and pastoralists are forced to move from their habitats, right? and these lands were given to the peasants in order to promote agriculture, isn't it? Yes, in fact, regional trades were also promoted, right? Then, under the external frontier expansion, the areas beyond the hinterland of the garrison towns, right? It was the next phase of expansion, which started with Alauddin Khalji in southern India and also culminated with Muhammad Tughlaq. Okay. Then we saw about the masjid, right? Actually, a mosque is called a masjid in Arabic, right? Actually, literally a place where a Muslim pray to their God Allah, right? Then we saw about two important mosques, right? One is Begumpuri Mosque, built in the reign of Muhammad Tughlaq, and the what is that? Motki Masjid, right? Built in the reign of Sikandar Lodi, isn't it? Yes. Children, now we will see about the administration and consolidation under the Khaljis and Tughlaqs. Okay. See children, the consolidation of a kingdom as vast as the Delhi Sultanate needed reliable governors and administrators. Yes, see for example, if we see India is a big country, yes, India has 28 states and 9 union territories, right? But see children, even though central government is the head of the government, other than that we have state government and then third tier government is Panchayat Raj. Yes, so for administration purposes it is also divided into so many units, right? Like that, the consolidation of a kingdom as vast as the Delhi Sultanate needed reliable governors and administrators. Rather than appointing aristocrats and landed chieftains as governors, the early sultans, especially Iltutmish, favored their special slaves purchased for military service called bandagan in Persian. See children, administrative purpose-காக அந்த வாஸ்ட் ஏரியாவை என்ன பண்ணியிருக்காங்க, ரூல் பண்ணுறதுக்காக ரிலையபிள் கவர்னர்ஸ் அவங்களுக்கு நீடாக இருந்தது. பட் தே டிடன்ட் பிலீவ் அரிஸ்டோக்ராட்ஸ் அண்ட் லேண்டட் சீஃப்டன்ஸ், அதாவது நிறைய நில வச்சுருக்க அந்த சீஃப்டன்ஸையோ இல்லை அரிஸ்டோக்ராட்ஸ் மீன்ஸ் ஹை கிளாஸ் பீப்புள், மீன்ஸ் ஹை சொசைட்டிலேயே ரொம்ப ஹை கிளாஸ் பீப்புளாக இருப்பாங்க, அவங்க தான் அரிஸ்டோக்ராட்ஸ். ஓகே, ஸோ the Delhi Sultanates didn't appoint aristocrats and landed chieftains as governors. Especially Iltutmish, what he did, he purchased slaves for military service. அடிமைகளை மிலிட்ரியில் ஒர்க் பண்ணுறதுக்காக அவர் வாங்குறாரு. It is called bandagan. Bandagan is a Persian language. Bandagan means slaves. Especially Iltutmish favored their special slaves purchased for what purpose? Military service. He wanted to make them work in military, and also they were carefully trained to some of the most important political officers in the kingdom. Then these bandagan, these slaves were totally dependent upon their master, the Sultan, could trust and rely upon them. So that what did sultans do? They believed their slaves. Okay. Then the Khaljis and Tughlaqs continued to use bandagan and also raised people of humble birth who were often their clients to high political positions. Clients means someone who is under the protection of another. Yeah, dependent or hanger on. Basically, client means how bandagan means slaves. Likewise, client means dependent. So sometimes the Khaljis and Tughlaqs continued to use bandagan and also raised people of humble birth who were often their clients to high political positions. It means ரொம்ப low and low base born people அவங்களையும் என்ன பண்ணுறாங்க, இவங்க நல்லா ட்ரெயின் பண்ணி பொலிட்டிக்கல் பொசிஷன்ஸ் நல்ல ஒரு கவர்னராக ஒரு பொசிஷன் கொடுத்து ரூல் பண்ண வைக்கிறாங்க. ஸோ ஜென்ரலி தே பிலீவ்ட் பேண்டகன் அண்ட் கிளைன்ஸ் and the sultans made them in high position in administration level. Okay, and they were appointed as generals and governors. See, already I told you, governors. In fact, they were appointed as generals also. However, this also introduced an element of political instability. Even though they appointed their clients and bandagans in a high position, there was political instability. How it happened? Because generally slaves and clients were loyal to their masters. Who were their masters? Of course, sultans, right? Kings, right? And patrons, but not patrons means sponsors, like kings only, but not to their heirs, but not their sons and all. Okay, so if sultan says anything, they will listen, but if the sultan's son says anything, they won't listen. So here also conflict between the old and the new nobility. So the king has a set of group and his son has a set of group. So here also conflict came. அதாவது அவங்களுக்குள்ளேயே ப்ராப்ளம் ஸ்டார்ட் ஆகுது. ஏன் கிங் சொல்லி தான் இவங்க கேட்பாங்களா, கிங்கோட சன் சொன்னால் கேட்க மாட்டாங்களா, அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு பொலிட்டிக்கல் இன்ஸ்டேபிலிட்டி இருந்துச்சு. ஓகேவா? இன்ஸ்டேபிலிட்டி மீன்ஸ் என்னது? நிலையற்ற தன்மை. ஓகே, ஒரு ஸ்டேபிளாக இல்லாமல் நிலையாக இல்லாமல் இன்ஸ்டேபிலிட்டியாக, அதுதான் பொலிட்டிக்கல் இன்ஸ்டேபிலிட்டி. ஓகே, பட் வாட் ஹேப்பன், many authors, Tawarik, criticized the Delhi sultans for appointing the low and base born to high officers. ஒரு லோ லெவலில் பிறந்த அவங்கள போய் ஹையர் ஆஃபீஸர்ஸாக இவங்க அப்பாயின்மெண்ட் பண்ணுறாங்களே அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு they criticized the Delhi sultans. Okay, but the Ghalji and Tughlaq monarchs appointed military commanders as governors of territories of varying sizes. Yes, of course, we have many states. Some states are area wise small and some states have huge land area, right? Like that, they also divided their territories in various sizes. These lands were called Iqta and their holder was called Iqtadar or Mukti. So see, the territories which were divided by Delhi sultans for their administrative purposes were called Iqta and their holders were, அதை யார் ஹோல்ட் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க, அந்த இக்தாவை யார் மேனேஜ் பண்ணுறாங்க, அட்மினிஸ்டர் பண்ணுறாங்களோ, they were called Iqtadar or Mukti. Okay, and children, the duty of the Muktis was to lead military campaigns and maintain law and order in their Iqtas. In exchange for their military services, the Muktis collected the revenues of their assignments as salary. And see, basically what did they do? They conducted military expeditions and maintained law and order. சட்டம் ஒழுங்கு எல்லாம் நம்ம சொல்லுவோம்ல, தமிழ்நாடு கவர்மெண்ட் லா அண்ட் ஆர்டர் மெயின்டைன் பண்ணுறாங்க. லைக் தட் முக்திஸ் என்ன பண்ணுறாங்க, அவங்களுடைய இக்தாவில் லா அண்ட் ஆர்டர் மெயின்டைன் பண்ணி ப்ராப்ளம் இல்லாமல் பீஸ்ஃபுல்லாக கொண்டு போகணும். அட் த சேம் டைம் மிலிட்டரி கேம்பெயின்ஸ், அதாவது நெய்பரிங் ஏரியாஸை அட்டாக் பண்ணி கேப்சர் பண்ணுறது, அந்த வேலைகளையும் அவங்க பார்த்தாங்க. அண்ட் தே ஆக்சுவலி இன்ஸ்டெட் ஆஃப் கிவிங் சேலரி, they had rights to collect revenue from their Iqta. ஸோ சேலரியை அவங்களுக்கு சுல்தனேட்லேருந்து கொடுக்காம, சென்ட்ரல் கிங்டம்லேருந்து கொடுக்காம, அவங்க என்ன பண்ணாங்க, சேலரிக்கு பதிலாக ரெவென்யூ கலெக்ட் பண்ணுற அத்தாரிட்டி அவங்களுக்கு கிடைச்சிது. ஓகே, control over Muktis was most effective if their office was not inheritable and if they were assigned Iqtas for a short period of time before being shifted. See children, in order to control Muktis,
the king, the sultans, didn't allow them to rule over Iqtas a long period of time. Short period only they were allowed to administer the Iqtas. Then after that they would be shifted. Okay, and also one more policy they followed. What policy, you know? The king, the sultans didn't let their successors as their son or family. So legal era, அப்பாவுடைய சன் வாரிசு இவங்க தான் இன்ஹெரிட் பண்ணணும் அந்த த்ரோன் அப்படிங்கிறதெல்லாம் கிடையாது. The king can appoint anyone, any military governor generals as a Iqtadar or Mukti. For what purpose? In order to maintain Iqta. Got it? Then under Alauddin Khalji, the state brought the assessment and collection of land revenue under its own control. So during the reign of Alauddin Khalji, the assessment and collection of land revenue was brought. Okay, so the rights of the local chieftains to levy taxes were cancelled, and they were also forced to pay taxes. So what did they do? According to the land revenue system, local chieftains எல்லாம் டேக்ஸ் போட முடியாது, டேக்ஸ் கலெக்ட் பண்ண முடியாது. நீங்கள் இவ்வளோ டேக்ஸ் பே பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லிட்டு பீப்புளை ஃபோர்ஸ் பண்ண முடியாது. இன்ஸ்டெட் ஆஃப் தட் the chieftains were forced to pay taxes. Okay, so the sultans administrators measured the land and kept careful accounts. You know children, in fact Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq, during the reign of Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq, accountants were appointed by the state to check the amount of revenue collected by the muktis. Yeah, see whether they are collecting properly or not, how much amount they have collected, everything there was calculation done. So accountants அதாவது that they will maintain the accounts, no? So they were called accountants. They were appointed by the state in order to check the amount of revenue collected by whom? By the muktis. Okay, then care was taken that the mukti collected only the taxes prescribed by the state, and he kept the required number of soldiers. See, that is that Iqtadar or Mukti didn't have right to fix the tax. Only state only. Here state means sultanates. Sultans only will decide how much tax has to pay. Okay, and also Delhi sultans imposed 3 types of taxes. What were they? Taxes were on cultivation called kharaj and amounting to about 50% of the peasants' produce. So taxes were on cultivation called haraj and amounting to about 50% of the peasants' produce. They had to pay 50% of their produce. Then taxes on cattle. We know the meaning of cattle, right? Then taxes on houses. House tax also was there. So what were the 3 types of taxes imposed in Delhi Sultanate? The first one is haraj. It was collected on the cultivation producers, 50% of the peasants' cultivation producers. Then taxes on cattle, then taxes on houses. Okay, these were the 3 types of taxes imposed in Delhi Sultanate. Got it? Now children, after annexing southern India, especially after Alauddin Khalji, it was difficult to control distant provinces like Bengal from Delhi. Okay, then especially soon after annexing southern India, the entire region became independent. அங்கங்கே ஒரு வாஸ்ட் ரீஜியனாக போகிறப்போ சுல்தானேட்டோட கண்ட்ரோல் எல்லா இடத்துலையும் இல்லை. அதனால் என்ன பண்ணுறாங்க, அங்கங்கே இருக்கிற சீஃப்டன்ஸ் எல்லாம் தே டிக்ளேர்ட் தெம்செல்ஃப் ஆஸ் அ ரூலர் ஆஃப் தட் டெரிட்டரி. Okay, even sometimes especially in like Alauddin Khalji, they are and Muhammad bin Tughlaq, they tried to control them, and it was vain, because a short time only their control was there. Okay, after that local chieftains declared themselves as a ruler of that territory. Okay, then the Mongols under Genghis Khan invaded India. Okay, so the Delhi, after seeing this, Delhi Sultanate increased during the reign of Alauddin Khalji and in the early years of Muhammad bin Tughlaq's rule. Okay, this forced the two rulers to mobilize a large standing army in Delhi, which posed a huge administrative challenge, because in order to control the Mongol invasion, in order to tackle their invasion, Mongols invasion, they fortified their border in well manner. Okay, especially during the reign of Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq, they gave more importance to fortify their territory. See children, now we are going to see about the administration under Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Okay, see children, Delhi was attacked twice in the year 1299 and 1300, and 1302 to 1303. So 3 times Delhi faced an attack. So, as a defensive measure, Alauddin Khalji raised a large standing army. I told you, no? They fortified themselves. Okay, if they fortified, what did they do? There are large, they used to settle soldiers over there. So, Alauddin Khalji raised a large standing army. But under the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the Sultanate was attacked in the early years of Muhammad Tughlaq's reign. The Mongol army was defeated. Muhammad Tughlaq was confident about the strength of his army and his resources to plan an attack on Transoxiana. He therefore raised a large standing army. So, under the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he got victory, and the Mongol army was defeated by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So he got confidence. Okay, we have strong army, so no problem. We can attack Transoxiana. It is in Iran now. So he also raised a large standing army. Okay. Then Alauddin Khalji constructed a new garrison town named Siri for his soldiers. So Alauddin Khalji constructed a new garrison town named Siri. S-I-R-I. Siri. Siri means garrison town, constructed by whom? Alauddin Khalji. Rather than constructing a new garrison town, the oldest of the 4 cities of Delhi, Delhi Huna, was emptied and its residents and the soldiers garrisoned there. The residents of the old city were sent to the new capital city of Daulatabad in the south. So Muhammad bin Tughlaq created a new capital city, Daulatabad. So what did he do? He made the residents move from old town to new town, new city, new capital city. What was it? Daulatabad. Okay, from where the residents were shifted, the old city, that was Delhi Hunga, right? Then under the reign of Alauddin Khalji, the soldiers had to be fed. This was done through the produce collected as tax from lands between the Ganga and Yamuna. The tax was fixed at 50% of peasants' yield. Yes, already we have discussed about 50% of their produces the peasants had to pay, right? So the soldiers had to be fed how? Through the produces which peasants paid. Okay, so peasants என்ன பே பண்ணுறாங்களோ அதை வச்சு தான் யாருக்கு, சோல்ஜர்ஸ்க்கு அவங்களுக்கு வந்துட்டு டொனேட் பண்ணாங்க. Especially Ganga and Yamuna, in the between area of Ganga and Yamuna. Actually, now we are going to see about under the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Here, produce from the same area was collected as tax to feed the army, but to meet the expense of maintaining such a large number of soldiers, the Sultan levied additional taxes. This coincided with a famine in the area.
See children, see the difference. Alauddin Khalji collected the produces from 50% of produces from peasants. Here, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he also collected the same. Apart from that, he collected more taxes. So, by the time what happened, there was famine in the area. So, people suffered a lot. Okay. So, the soldiers had to be fed. This was done through the produce collected as tax from lands. ஏன்னா சோல்ஜர்ஸ்க்கு கிரைன்ஸ் ஃபுட் கிரைன்ஸ் எல்லாம் பெசன்ஸ் கிட்ட இருந்து வாங்கி அவங்களுக்கு கொடுக்குறாங்க. Because even Alauddin Khalji gave more importance to raise standing army, right? And during Alauddin Khalji's reign, the soldiers had to be paid. Alauddin chose to pay his soldiers salaries in cash rather than iktas. Iktas means land area, right? But instead of giving iktas, Alauddin Khalji preferred to pay his soldiers salaries in cash. Okay. So the soldiers would buy their supplies from merchants in Delhi, and it was the fear that merchants would raise their prices. To stop this, Alauddin controlled the price of goods in Delhi. Actually, prices were carefully surveyed by officers, and merchants who did not sell at the prescribed rates were punished. See, soldiers got their salary as a cash, right, rather than iktas. And also, Alauddin Khalji oda period very very important, prices control vechindar under the control of the king. Why no? I see, whatever the producers comes, merchants can't fix the rate whatever they want. The government will fix, the state will fix, the sultanate will fix the rate. According to that only the merchants can sell. Otherwise, if they sell in various prices, they will be punished by the state. So strictly Alauddin, especially during Alauddin Khalji's reign, it was followed strictly. In fact, Alauddin Khalji was the predecessor of this economic reforms. அதாவது ரொம்ப ஒரு ரிஃபார்ம்ஸ் ஒரு பெரிய ஒரு ட்ரையிங் பண்ணி ஒரு நியூ வாட் இஸ் தட் நியூ சிஸ்டமே இன்ட்ரடியூஸ் பண்ண கிரெடிட் யாருக்கு போகும் அப்படின்னா அலாவுதீன் கல்ஜி. பிகாஸ் அந்த பீரியட்லேயே ப்ரைஸ் எல்லாம் கண்ட்ரோலில் வச்சுக்கணும். எஸ்பெஷலி ஃபுட் கிரைன்ஸ் எல்லாம், ஃபுட் க்ராப்ஸ் இது, ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் லைக் வீட், ரைஸ், சுகர், க்ளோத், குக்கிங் ஆயில், இதனுடைய ப்ரைஸஸ் எல்லாம் எப்போவுமே கண்ட்ரோலில் இருக்கணும்னு சொன்னார். ஸோ திஸ் வே ஹி குட் பே அ low salary to the army and could afford to have a larger army. பிகாஸ் சேலரி கம்மியாக கொடுத்தாலும் அவங்களால லைஃப்பை சர்வை பண்ண முடிஞ்சால் மட்டுமே நம்ம ஆர்மியை வித்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணிக்க முடியும். ஸோ தட் அவர் என்ன பண்ணார், அதுக்காக ப்ரைஸ் கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணார். ப்ரைஸ் எல்லாத்தையும் கரெக்டான ப்ரைஸ் ஃபிக்ஸிங்க்கு இம்பார்ட்டன்ஸ் கொடுத்தார். அதுதான் அவருடைய பெரிய ஒரு ரிஃபார்ம்னு சொல்லலாம், எக்கனாமிக் ரிஃபார்ம். ஓகே, தென் அப்பார்ட் ஃப்ரம் தட் what is that, Alauddin Khalji kept officers to survey, and officers will fix the rate, okay, fix the prices. So prices were carefully surveyed by officers, and merchants who did not sell at the, because soldiers எல்லாம் வாங்குறாங்க அப்படின்னோடனே மர்ச்சன்ட்ஸ் எல்லாம் என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க, பயந்துட்டு கரெக்டான ரேட்டாக தான் நம்ம செல் பண்ணணும்னு நினச்சிப்பாங்க. ஸோ merchants who did not sell at the prescribed rates were punished. Yes, already I have told you, if the merchants sell in various rates whatever they want, what will happen? They will be punished during the reign of whom? Alauddin Khalji. Got it?
But we will see in Tughlaq's period, Muhammad bin Tughlaq's period. Okay, here soldiers had to be paid cash, but instead of controlling prices, he used a token currency, somewhat like present day paper currency, but made out of cheap metals, not gold and silver. So, people in the 14th century did not trust these coins. They were very smart. They saved their gold and silver coins and paid all their taxes to the state with this token currency. This cheap currency could also be counterfeited easily. It means Muhammad bin Tughlaq கூட பீரியட்ல என்ன பண்ணார்னா he introduced token currency. Who introduced token currency? Muhammad Tughlaq. Okay, here in your book it is written Muhammad Tughlaq, and we can say Muhammad bin Tughlaq also. So if I say Muhammad Tughlaq or Muhammad bin Tughlaq, both are same. So don't get confused. Children, who introduced token currency? Of course, Muhammad bin Tughlaq. See, the generosity of Sultan and the failure of his schemes resulted in a huge financial loss. You know, children, I already have told you, during Muhammad bin Tughlaq's reign, the capital city was transferred from Delhi to Daulatabad. Because Muhammad bin Tughlaq thought that instead of Delhi, if we are in Daulatabad, easily we can administer the entire country. But unfortunately, what happened? You know, children, actually he shifted his capital from Delhi to Devagiri. Then afterwards he renamed the Devagiri as a Daulatabad. Okay, that is a small story, but you can understand that also. So Daulatabad was his new capital. Who created that one? Who? Muhammad bin Tughlaq, right? And who introduced token currency? Muhammad bin Tughlaq. But why he shifted? In order to avoid Mongols invasion. But unfortunately, at last it was failed, because people from Delhi shifting process was very difficult, and people suffered a lot due to sun rays, summer heat. So many died. Okay, so that it also caused a huge loss to the treasury. ஸோ லாஸ் ஆன உடனே என்ன பண்ணார், ஒரு டோக்கன் கரன்சி இன்ட்ரடியூஸ் பண்ணுறாரு. ஸோ ஹூ இன்ட்ரடியூஸ்டு டோக்கன் கரன்சி? முகமது பின் துக்ளக். And in fact, copper coins were issued by him, which had the same legal value as silver or gold coins. Okay, and this scheme also failed. Why? Because people, many of them started to mint coins themselves. So in fact, they were smart. They didn't spend their gold and silver coins. They paid all the taxes to the state with this token currency. This cheap currency could also be counterfeited easily. Okay, see children, counterfeited means copied. Okay, so people started minting their own copper currency, and the empire was flooded with counterfeit coins. ஸோ கண்ட்ரி ஃபுல்லாக என்ன ஆச்சு, அந்த டோக்கன் கரன்சி, அந்த ஃபேக் கரன்சி, இந்த கவுண்டர்ஃபெயிட் காயின்ஸே ஃபுல்லாக சர்க்குலேட் ஆகிட்டுருக்கு. ஸோ வாட் ஹேப்பன்? த ஃபினான்ஷியல் சிஸ்டம் ஆஃப் த கண்ட்ரி பிகேன் டு கொலாப்ஸ். Even foreign traders lost faith in his currency, and this affected the trade. ஸோ அவங்க என்ன பண்ணாங்க, ஐயோ இது என்ன டோக்கன் கரன்சி இல்லை ஃபேக் காயின்ஸாக இருக்குது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ட்ரேடர்ஸ் எல்லாமே அந்த கண்ட்ரி மேலே இருந்த ஒரு ட்ரஸ்ட்டே போயிடுச்சு, அவங்களுக்கு ட்ரேட் பண்ணுற இன்ட்ரெஸ்டே போயிடுச்சு. ஸோ த ஃபினான்ஷியல் சிஸ்டம் ஆஃப் த கண்ட்ரி பிகேன் டு கொலாப்ஸ். ஓகே, see children, Alauddin's administrative measures were quite successful, and chroniclers praised his reign for its cheap prices and efficient supplies of goods in the market. He successfully withstood the threat of Mongol invasions. So already I have told you, he was the reformer of that is marketing. Okay, the controlling the prices of goods, this and all, he was the reformer. and so even chroniclers and historians also praised his policies, isn't it? But on the contrary, Muhammad bin Tughlaq's administrative measures were a failure. Yes, his campaign into Kashmir was a disaster. He, his campaign to Kashmir was a disaster. ரொம்ப யாருக்கு டிசாஸ்டராக முடிஞ்சது? முகமது பின் துக்ளக் ஆர்மிக்கு. He then gave up his plans to invade Transylvania and disbanded his large army. And meanwhile, his administrative measures created complications. Okay, the shifting of, for example, the shifting of people to Daulatabad to Delhi and Delhi to Daulatabad, right? The raising of taxes and famine in Ganga Yamuna belt led to widespread rebellion, and finally the token currency had to be recalled. Okay, but children, even though Muhammad bin Tughlaq's failures were there, sometimes in history, see, Delhi Sultan planned a campaign to capture Mongol territory under the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, unlike Alauddin's defensive measures, because Alauddin Khilji tried to what is that, restore his region, but Muhammad bin Tughlaq got confidence and he tried to attack Mongols. Okay, so children, Alauddin Khilji followed defensive measures, but Muhammad bin Tughlaq's measures were conceived as a part of military offensive against the Mongols. Got it? Children, now we are going to see about the Sultanate in the 15th and 16th centuries. Okay, see children, already we have seen that after Tughlaq dynasty, the Sayyid and Lodi dynasties ruled from Delhi and Agra until 1526. Yes, by then Jaipur, Bengal, Malwa, Gujarat, Rajasthan and the entire South India had independent rulers who established flourishing states and prosperous capitals. So after Alauddin Khilji, after Muhammad bin Tughlaq, there was no efficient rulers, though automatically the small kingdoms emerged all over the subcontinent. This was also the period of, already we have discussed the emergence of new ruling groups like the Afghans and the Rajputs. Okay. Here, some of the states established in this period were small but powerful and extremely well administered. For example, Sher Shah Suri, 1540 to 1545, only 5 years started his career as the, 5 years he ruled. In a short period only he ruled. How did he start his career? Sher Shah Suri was belonging Sur dynasty. Okay, his career as the manager of a small territory for his uncle in Bihar, and eventually challenged and defeated the Mughal emperor Humayun. So after the first battle of Panipat, Babur established Mughal dynasty. Then after Babur, Humayun came to the throne. But during the Humayun's reign, this Sher Shah Suri tried to attack Humayun and captured his territories. So Sher Shah captured Delhi and established his own dynasty. Although the Sur dynasty ruled for only 15 years, means 1540 to 1555. Actually, Sher Shah Suri was an efficient ruler and an efficient administrator, because he introduced so many reforms, especially borrowed elements from Alauddin Khilji and made them more efficient. Okay, so Sher Shah Suri's administration became the model followed by the great Emperor Akbar in the year 1556 to 1605, when he consolidated the Mughal Empire. So Sher Shah Suri introduced so many reforms, and also Mughal Emperor Akbar the Great was the follower of Sher Shah Suri when he consolidated the Mughal Empire. Okay, so Sher Shah Suri belonging Suri dynasty. Okay, and he captured Delhi from Humayun, the son of whom? Babur. Babur was the founder of Mughal dynasty. Got it? Children, I hope you all understood this chapter clearly. I will send the classwork in the form of PDF, so you copy it in your classwork notebook and read it well. Okay? Thank you, children.